24 years ago, Lazio lifted their second Serie A title. However, due to a severe economic crisis in 2002, the club president was forced out and several star players, including Alessandro, Nesta, and Hernan Crespo were sold. It will come as no surprise that league form has declined and the club has never really looked like getting close to the title until the team guided by Maurizio Sarri finished second in Serie A last season. In today's video, we will join Lazio to continue the resurgence and see if we can take this club back to the top and bring the Scudetto back to the blue half of Rome. Diving into the save, it feels good to be back at the club after last season's network game shenanigans, and the squad is looking pretty good. But I don't think it's a title contender just yet. Our key man for the season will of course be my boy Ciro Immobile, but aged 33, I don't know how long he will be sticking around. In this video, I will be giving a test to the currently unreleased GYR tactic. So this is his Hulk tactic for FM24, and this is what it looks like with the current Lazio best 11. Following Lazio's second place finish in real life last season, we will be in both the Champions League and the Supercoppa. But sadly, the odds are not with us, as we're predicted to finish 5th place in Serie A this season. Let's kick off the Season 1 recap talking about the Super Cup. In the semi-final, we faced Inter Milan in Riyadh and managed to scoop a 1-0 win thanks to a close-range strike from Tati Castellanos. That meant that we progressed into the final where we would take on Napoli, and this is another close one, but this time Napoli scored the only goal of the game to lift the trophy. But I'm sure we will be back here at some point in this save. However, Napoli will continue to be a thorn in our side this season, as they also knocked us out of the Coppa Italia at the quarter-final stage after Matteo Guendouzi received a straight red card and Napoli bagged 2 goals late on. In Serie A, we were good, but not spectacular, winning games by small margins, but we were actually winning more games than we were losing. As you'd expect, Ciro Immobile was on fire for us this season, scoring 30 goals in the league on the way to yet another golden boot. But we managed to amass 80 points throughout the season to see us finish in 2nd place in Serie A, but you can still see the task ahead as AC Milan walked to the title, beating us by 13 points. And finally, in the Champions League, we were drawn in Group A alongside Lens, Sevilla and Dortmund, and we got some great results to see us finish top of the group and qualify automatically for the round of 16. This is where things got a little bit trickier as we drew Manchester City and were faced a trip to the Etihad in the first leg. As you'd expect, we came up against Erling Haaland, and he was in goal-scoring mood as he scored twice to give City a decent lead in the tie. Back in Rome, we managed to pull a goal back in the second half through Mattia Zaccagni, but as we were pushing for an equaliser, we got caught on the counter-attack and Julian Alvarez put the tie to bed in injury time. So Season 1 is in the books and I'm pretty happy with how it went, but there is still plenty of room for improvement. Over the summer, we've been given a transfer budget of just over 26.5 million, and I think I'm going to try to have a strong Italian influence on our summer signings. So let's get to work. This was a crazy summer as 15 players departed the club, with us bringing in a total of 121 million, but some key players did leave for pastures new. Things kicked off with Luis Alberto joining Manchester United for £28 million, with another big transfer being goalkeeper Ivan Provedel joining Chelsea for a whopping £52 million. As you can see, with several other players did leave the club for smaller fees, but they all do add up, which allowed us to sign 5 new faces. First up is the pre-arranged transfer of Matteo Guendouzi from Marseille for 11.25 million, but then we really started to put our own stamp on this team. Our first true summer signing was Tommaso Baldanzi from Empoli for his minimum fee release clause of 21.5 million, and we followed that up with Destiny Udogie from Spurs for 26.5 million, and Stefano Turati, who will be our new first choice goalkeeper, from Sassuolo for 11.75 million. And finally, we cracked open the checkbook for a massive signing as we secured the services of Giorgio Scalvini from Atalanta for £80 million. Now yes, I'm fully expecting someone else to sign him for more money in the future, but we will very much enjoy him whilst he's here. Going into the season, I'm really happy with our recruitment, and I'll be pinning 4 players in to ensure their development, and I'll be making sure that Mattia Zaccagni develops into an actual striker. We have the same 4 competitions as last season on the schedule, but looking at the media preview, they don't think that we've improved and are expecting a resurgence from Napoli and Juventus, who do not have European competition. We kick off the season the same as last year with the Italian Supercoppa, where for a second season in a row we would take on Inter Milan. Last season, we won. Sadly for us, that didn't happen this season. Despite scoring the opener, we lost the game 2-1. We did go into the third place playoff where we took on AC Milan, and Ciro Immobile's extra time goal saw us win the game. But nobody remembers third place. And we had yet another disappointing showing in the Italian Cup, knocking Palermo out in the third round before facing Juventus. This was a pretty even game, but Juve found a breakthrough with our former player Ditachi Kamada scoring the only goal of the game. The Champions League was almost a carbon copy of Season 1. We picked up some decent results in the league phase to see us finishing 11th in the table and have to go into the knockout playoff round. This was an all-Italian affair as we would take on Fiorentina, and we opened the scoring through Mattia Zaccagni before Fiorentina equalised in the second half. With 5 minutes of the game remaining, we tried a bit of Route 1 and picked out Tati Castellanos, who rifled us back into the lead, which we would take into the second leg. Back in Rome, things were a little bit more comfortable as we scored 3 goals late on to advance with a 5-1 aggregate win. This set up a round of 16 tie with Manchester City for a second season in a row. The home leg was pretty dull with the game ending goalless, but that meant we'd have a large task ahead of us at the Etihad. And large task it was. City opened the scoring through Yeremy Pino and added a second shortly after through John Stones. We did manage to pull a goal back through Tati, but the robot Erling Haaland popped up to secure City's passage through to the quarter-finals. However, in Serie A, we were a completely different animal. Our start to the season was truly remarkable and we marched into the lead at the top of the table. Key performers for us this season were Mattia Zaccagni, who transitioned into playing as a striker amazingly well, scoring 26 goals in the league. We also had Destiny Udogie have a breakout season for us, finishing with 15 assists in Serie A, and he is now wanted by Manchester United and Manchester City, but on loan because FM's weird. Our unbeaten run continued through March, where we suffered back-to-back defeats against Napoli and Sassuolo, but then recovered by going on a 10-game unbeaten run to close out the season. As you'd expect with the results like that, we won the Serie A title 25 years after the last one, beating Juve this time by 14 points. So we're back on top in Italy, but there is still more work that we can do here because I think this club is capable of greatness. We've corrected some of the financial issues and we now have over £130 million in the club balance and just over £76 million in the transfer budget. After such a positive season last year, I didn't want to rock the boat with too many outgoings, so only 4 players left the club over the summer, none of which were for huge fees. Which I'm happy with considering I thought it would be some interest to some of our key players. On the incoming side of things, we had the pre-arranged transfers of Nicola Rovella and Luca Pellegrini from Juventus, but we added to that with 5 players, costing us a total of £115 million all told. Firstly, we raided Red Bull Salzburg for 2 signings as we picked up Dion Cameri to be our new attacking midfielder for £15.25 million and Omar Soleil to partner Scalvini in defence. He cost us £29.5 million. We did continue the strong Italian theme with the signing of Cesar Castade from Chelsea to beef up that midfield. He did cost us £61 million, but I think given the game time that he needs, he will prove to be worth it. And finally, we secured La Masia graduate Hector Fort as he signed from Barcelona for $10 million, and I think I'm going to make him my first choice right back because I know what a beast he can develop into. Speaking of development, I'll be pinning these 5 players into position this season, and we'll be moving Baldanzi up to partner Zaccagni up top. On the schedule, we have the same 4 competitions as last season, as we attempt to prove last year in Serie A was not a fluke. AC Milan are still favourites to win the title, but we are now in a much stronger position compared to last season. Kicking off the review of season number 3, we have the Italian Supercoppa, which again was pretty disappointing. We took on Inter Milan as always and suffered a narrow defeat despite dominating the game, meaning we'd be back in the 3rd place playoff. Having given away a penalty in the last game, you'd think we'd learn, but we didn't, conceding another penalty to lose the game 1-0. We seem to have no luck in this competition, but things in the league were much better. Our defence of the Serie A title started brilliantly, going on an unbeaten run until facing Bologna away from home at the end of November. However, that loss didn't send us spiralling and we got things back on track to win our second Serie A title in a row, beating Inter Milan by 5 points. In the Coppa Italia this season, we advanced through the third round comfortably to set up a quarter-final tie with AC Milan. We were at home for the game and it was another tight affair, and it would be settled on penalties. Theo Hernandez saw his first penalty saved, and Luka Jovic blasted the decisive penalty wide to see us progress. In the semis, we'd face Inter Milan over 2 legs, and in the first leg at home we showed real class, bagging 3 goals in each half with 6 different goal scorers to take a 6-1 lead to Milan for the second leg. The second leg also had lots of goals in it, but this one ended in a 3-3 draw to see us progress with a final 9-4 aggregate win. Moving into the final, we take on Juventus, and they took the lead as Dusan Vlahovic headed home a lovely cross from Locatelli. We did manage to level the game through Ciro Immobile lashing the ball home, but that is how the final stayed through extra time, with the game being decided on penalties. And this is where our new keeper really stepped up, saving penalties from Carlos Soler and Emi Buendia to see us lift the club's first Coppa Italia since 2019. And finally, in the Champions League, we picked up some impressive results in the league phase, beating both Bayern and Barcelona on the way to a 12th place finish. Going into the knockout portion of the competition, we'd face Marseille, a team who actually beat us in the league phase. We were on the road first and were caught cold by the French side as they were really impressive, beating us 4-0 on the night, giving us a mammoth task in the second leg. However, back in Rome, we had the best performance I'd ever seen from us as we somehow managed to win the game 5-0 and progress to the round of 16. This is where we faced another team from France, but this time we would take on the French champions PSG. We were at home for the first leg and suffered an immediate setback with Kylian Mbappe scoring inside the 3rd minute. The boys showed great character to get on the score sheet themselves, even opening up a 3-1 lead until Lucas Hernandez pulled a goal back for PSG late on. So we went to Paris with a slender lead, which was quickly cancelled out by WONDERKIDS João Neves, but then we fired in 3 goals inside 5 first half minutes, which saw us win the tie 6-3 on aggregate. In the quarter-final, we faced our 3rd French opposition of the knockout stages, this time taking on Nice, and again we'd be at home first. The home leg in this one was incredibly comfortable despite going a goal down, as we then scored 4 goals without reply to take a 3-goal lead back to France. However, the game on the road almost turned into a disaster as Nice scored 3 times in the first half to remove the lead that we did have. Luckily for us, we still have Ciro Immobile, who applied the finish to a Tati Castellanos cross to give us a 5-4 aggregate lead, which is how the game finished. That result meant we moved into the semi-finals, where we faced Manchester City for a 3rd successive Champions League in a row. The first leg was at the Etihad, where Rodri scored the only goal in a tight game, before the second game in Rome, where Erling Haaland scored the decisive goal in the 88th minute to send City through to the final. This season was huge for us, securing a league and cup double in Italy, along with a semi-final appearance in Europe. So it feels like we're on the cusp of something special. Going into the summer, we are currently overspending on our wage budget, but we do have £45 million in the transfer kitty, but I do have some surprise signings over the summer. Now, I did mention that we did have some surprises, and that's because I'm bringing some former players back to Rome for their second spells at the club. First up was defender Luis Felipe, who returned to the club having left in 2022. He joined after his Al Ittihad contract had expired. And we followed that up by bringing Sergi Milinkovic-Savic back to the club after spending 3 seasons in Saudi Arabia as well, with him being at Al Hilal. We also picked up a goalkeeper in Predrag Rajkovic to be our backup keeper on a free transfer, before adding Victor Gyökeres from Sporting for £40 million to replace the retiring Ciro Immobile. And we're also looking to sign Christian Rivero for $500k to give us 3 goalkeepers, and we have Gift Orban arriving on another free transfer in January. With those signings, this is how we're looking this season, with Bardanzi and Gyökeres set to lead the line, with SMS taking a familiar spot in that midfield. We have the same 4 competitions on the schedule as last season, and we are second favourites to secure 3 Serie A titles in a row. Before we get into the results of Season 4, because he retired in-game, let me know that you are still watching this video right now by commenting Ciro down below for Mr. Ciro Immobile. I've got his shirt up there. That's why. Just comment Ciro down below to let me know that you're still here. Let's get into the results of Season 4. In the Super Cup of this season, we faced different opposition in the semis as we took on Juventus, who we were able to sweep aside with a comfortable 3-0 win to set up a final appearance against Napoli. The first half in this one was really dull before 5 goals were scored in the last 20 minutes. We managed to score 4 of the 5 to finally lift the Super Coppa for the first time in this rebuild. We followed this up with another monumental performance in Serie A, this time winning the title by 10 points, with Victor Gyökeres picking up the Golden Boot. In the Coppa Italia, we managed to beat Monza and Verona to set up a Rome derby in the semi-finals. We were at home first despite both clubs playing in the same stadium, and January free transfer signing Gift Orban scored a brace in an impressive 4-0 win. In the second leg, Roma did battle back and win the game 2-1, but we did progress with a 5-2 aggregate win. This would set up a final appearance against Inter Milan, and the opening 90 minutes were goalless, forcing the game into extra time, and then Xavi Simons broke the deadlock for Inter. At the start of the second half of extra time, Victor Gyökeres pulled us level to send the tie to penalties. Gyökeres then saw his opening penalty saved by the Inter keeper, but we then bounced back with our goalkeeper catching Xavi Simons' Panenka attempt. Both teams continued to score their spot kicks, and still Stefan Torrati came up big, saving Matthias Oliveira's penalty to see us lift back-to-back Coppa Italias. So we secured a domestic treble. Could we make it a remarkable season by somehow capturing the Champions League? The league phase was pretty straightforward, beating everyone that wasn't from England, even including a 3-0 win at home against Real Madrid. We finished 10th in the table, meaning that we'd have to face a playoff fixture where we would take on Lille. The first leg was in France, and we were reduced to 10 men early on, with Cataldi receiving his marching orders on the 27th minute. Despite being down to 10 men, we did take the lead through Gift Orban, but Lille were able to pull things level just before full time. In the second leg, we battered Lille and were only able to score once through SMS, but that was enough to see us move into the round of 16. It was Bayer Leverkusen up next, and we opened with an impressive first leg win, with Gift Orban getting on the score sheet yet again in a 3-0 win. Away from home in Germany, we extended that lead through Gyökeres and then cruised to a 4-1 aggregate win. This set up another knockout tie with a team from Manchester. However, for the first time in this rebuild, we did avoid Manchester City, so we would take on Manchester United. The first leg was at Old Trafford, and even though we took the lead on 2 separate occasions in the game, the final score was 2-2, but I had faith that we could get the job done at home. Back in Rome, we really took charge of this game, with the boys putting in a fantastic collective performance, bagging 5 goals to progress with a 7-4 aggregate win. It was another English side in the semi-finals as we took on Arsenal, who got off to a flyer in Rome, scoring early through Gabriel Jesus. We did pull a goal back from the spot through Gyökeres, but this would be a tough ask in the second leg. At the Emirates, we scored in the first half through Tati Castellanos, but our goalkeeper put in a man-of-the-match performance to keep a clean sheet and see us move into the Champions League final. We took to the field in the final to face Bayern Munich, and we got off to a terrible start by giving away a penalty, which Harry Kane fired home in the 9th minute. However, Gyökeres continued his amazing goal-scoring run in this competition by putting us level, applying the finish to a Hector Fort cross. And speaking of Fort, the former Barcelona man cut inside the box in the second half and let fly to fire us into the lead, and that proved to be the decisive goal to see us lift the Champions League trophy for the first time in the club's history. So, Season 4 was absolutely amazing, and I think we can consider Lazio rebuilt. If you do like the rebuild content and you want to get your hands on the files, they are on my Patreon right now, and check out this playlist popping up right now. That is all the rebuilds that we've done on this year's game.